What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Adobe Live Day 2 with Kristi Odom and myself, who my name is Francisco. Some of you may know me as Paco. So I just want to say hello, everybody. Welcome. We got Jack Watson in the chat. We got Tim. We got Andreas, Eric, Maya, Kaya. Hey, that rhymes. Maya and Kaya. Cody Bear, Steve, Keith, Brandon. Yes, everybody, welcome. Say what's up in the chat. Let us know where you're from. Thank you for having us. So before we get right into it, I just want to take over some housekeeping items and then we'll get into the introduction with Kristi. So first, I just want to go over the schedule real quick. So we start off today with getting started in Adobe Spark with Paul Tranny. Then we just had the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge with Voodoo Val. So it's important to note that because once again, Kristi and I are going to be going over some design feedback based on the challenge that she did today. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a sec. We're live right now with Kristi Odom and myself. We're creating photo presets in Lightroom. And then we'll have the Illustrator Daily Creative Challenge with Paul Tranny. Then logo design with Claudia and Jesus. XD Daily Creative Challenge after that with Howard. Then the draw along with Kyle T. Webster. And finally, the design off with Voodoo Val and Cody Bear once again. All right. So one more thing to note is the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge that's going on right now. So if we hop on over to my screen. Let's go this. God, I love the Stream Deck. All right, so we are going to be going over icons. So the challenge for today is design an icon using the line tool and shape tool. Try offsetting your lines to add depth. So what's going to happen there in about an hour and a half, everybody that's been able to finish and submit their challenge via Discord, Kristi and I will go over there and give some design feedback. All right, cool. So with all that out of the way, Kristi, go ahead and introduce yourself. Let us know who you are. We're going to have a look at some of your work, but yes, hello, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me. It's great to be here again. My name is Kristi Odom. I'm a Nikon ambassador. I live just south of DC in Sterling, Virginia. I'm a nature photographer. I do both photo and filmmaking, and I am a conservationist and a public speaker. So that's a little bit about me, and I'm excited to show you guys today. We're going to go a totally different direction. I'm going to show you guys how I edit some of my signature shots, some of my favorites that end up in my portfolio. I'm going to show you the raws and the full process. So
I love it. We're seeing the best of the best today. So it's exciting stuff.
It was fun showing you stuff around the neighborhood yesterday and stuff in your local parks. But today I'm going to go a little more exotic and show you guys some stuff from all over the world. So I'm excited.
Cool. So we're going to hop into your screen, Kristi, and let's have a look at some of your work.
Great. Well, this is my website right here. Can you guys see that? Yes. Awesome.
Yep. That's it.
I got some of, and actually these first 4 images are some of the ones we're going to be editing today, which is kind of exciting.
Beautiful.
So, yeah,
hey, we had a look at that yesterday. The dragonfly.
Yeah, this one, we edited this one yesterday and that was fun. So I'm excited to show you the raws of these. I'm kind of a little nervous about showing my raws. It's like, you don't want people to see your raws because Lightroom does help us fix things up quite a little bit. So, and here's my Instagram. I'd love you guys to follow me and follow my work.
Yeah, please follow Kristi. There's her Instagram. And yeah, she's full of amazing photography. If you want to scroll down, let's see what's going on there. We'll give everybody a sneak peek.
I posted a video today of local slow motion. I just posted this right before we went on. It's cut a little funny in the square box, but if you click on it, you'll see the full frame of that. And yeah, so this is some of the work. With my photography, I strive to connect people emotionally to wildlife. The more I photograph nature, the more I find that animals have personalities and characters, and I try to honor that. I try to honor the uniqueness and the beauty that is in the world around us. I want to get people to love nature a little bit more, use images to, show the beauty that I see.
It's beautiful work. I'm just going to say hey to a couple more people that are joining us. We have Cassidy, we have Sydney from DC, cheers. Christine from Easton, Pennsylvania. We have Hugh O'Connor from Lower Haight. Wow, you're right down the street from me. I'm in Upper Haight. That's awesome. Tim from Kentucky, Jose from Compton, California. Brandon Daza says, so excited to see the raws. Akin is in the chat. Welcome, Akin. So yeah, we got a lot of people joining us. This is awesome. Very, very exciting. Cool. So now that we got a sneak peek at photography or of Kristi's portfolio and seeing her photography, let's have a look at those raws and see what we're going to get into today.
Oh, goodness. This is the first time I've ever really shown my raw, so you guys be friendly like.
Yeah, this is the VIP treatment. We're getting a sneak into it.
So I've put in
All right,
this
here we
folder
are.
as well. This isn't the raw. This is the final edits. This would be the raw.
There it is. Okay, so yeah, let's have a look at that. So that's the raw. That's what came out of the camera. And then let's look at real quick on how the final edit came out. So there it is. So we're gonna see the process. Kristi's gonna show you how it goes from raw to this amazing final result. So this is very exciting.
I'm kind of tempted to leave this one till I do a couple of the easier ones, because this one had a lot of contrast, a lot of black and white, a lot of like adding blacks and adding whites. So I may start with one that's a little easier, if that's all right.
Yeah.
I actually
You're in
might
control.
start
Let's do
with
it.
this one. So this is the final edit that I did, and this was the in-camera shot.
Okay.
Yesterday, I pointed on looking for distractions and eliminating distractions with cropping and, making sure your eye movement's correct, and using that little tiny image in the upper left corner that I just got rid of, to kind of see that, this area here, it doesn't add to this image at all, and it pulls my eye in, when the real emotion for me is this mother and child and what's in here. So I'm going to start with my crop, like I always do.
And there it is. Does everybody remember what this spiral is? Don't give it away, Kristi, but we learned about this yesterday. It's an amazing way of looking at photography that naturally leads us to where that spiral kind of starts looping down. So it's going to take a second for people to start typing in, but yeah, we can just continue. I want to see people in the chat call out what this overlay composition tool is.
So I'm going to keep this tool and kind of get rid of that background there a little bit. I do want to straighten things out just a touch.
Patty got it. The Fibonacci, yes. The Fibonacci spiral.
So I'm starting to see that this spiral can work in this image, because I really do want the eye to go from the baby's eye to the mother's eye to the trunk and the emotion. And that's kind of the way I want people to see the image. I want to lead people that way. So I'm going to use some dodging and burnings. First, I'm going to do this crop, which I like a lot better. I'm going to just fidget with it just a little bit, because I always have to, I think it just needs a little less space here.
Lindsay Palmer is getting pretty in depth with it. It's the golden spiral based on the Fibonacci sequence. Yes,
Love
Lindsay,
it.
you nailed
Love
it. That's awesome.
So, yeah, and do you guys see how the spiral kind of fits in a little bit with the narrative and the movement I would like the image to give? It's a little abstract and it's not exact, but it's always something to strive for, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And Kristi, how do we get that spiral up on Lightroom, just so people know?
Yeah, no worries. So you've got your crop tool here, and if you hit O, it toggles through all the different overlay modes. This is the default, I think, the rule of thirds one, where you can see if you hit the power points, which are these points where the thirds mix.
Right. That's probably the most common that people are aware of. Most cameras too have it as an overlay. But yeah, it's just where the lines intersect. Those are kind of the point of interest, where you want to put that main point of interest in one of those intersecting lines. And again, these are all guides. I mean, rules are meant to be broken. It's just kind of a way to help you start composing images in a nice, visually appealing way.
So to toggle those, you just hit the O button, and there's a whole bunch of different ones. You can see triangular composition and movement on different axes and lines, but then you get to the Fibonacci one, which makes me so happy. Now you can toggle the Fibonacci spiral by hitting Shift and O, so you can get different orientations. I don't really know what these ones here are. I never use those because that's not the golden ratio, but I'm sure those might be useful for some people. But for me, it's these ones that are the exact golden ratio. So I kind of toggle in the direction that I am looking to use. And like for me now, everything lines up. But now I'm going to use dodging and burning to really enhance that movement, from bringing my viewer from the baby to the mother to the emotion in the trunk. The emotion and the connection. So that's my crop, which I think is a lot stronger. If I hit the backslash button, I can just kind of see, oh, it doesn't do the crop. Sorry, I'll do that later. I'm going to start by doing a little bit of exposure. I'm kind of looking for the exposure on the center to be right on. I really want to see this detail in the trunk here. I want to pull a little bit of contrast. I want to make sure I don't clip that black. So I'm going to pull it, make it a little bit brighter. I'm going to warm up the image just a little bit. I'm going a little faster, so just a little bit of warmth. That might be a touch much, but I'll just back that off a little bit. Okay, and now I want to add a vignette. I'm going to move a little bit faster today than I did yesterday. So if I'm going too fast, please let me know in the forum. And I'm willing to slow down and go through that a little bit more. I'm just using the default vignette that kind of pulls my eyes a little bit more towards the center of the image. Now I'm going to use my adjustment brush and really kind of pull some detail out here in this eye. Maybe, so I'm going to just paint, let me start that over. I'm going to do exposure. I'm going to do just a tiny bit less, a tiny bit of dodging here. Really bring out the eyes here and here. That might be a touch much. It's all about like really little adjustments. I might add just a little bit of clarity too.
You're using the brush tool, right, to kind of bring in the enhancements on where you're brushing.
Yeah,
and this is cool. Kristi, if you hit O, you can actually see where you're painting while you have the brush tool, I believe.
Yeah. Oh, so yeah. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, it's just a way to let people know where the adjustments are being made. Because sometimes it's hard when we're seeing these like fine little details, but it's all these little things that bring, yep, see, there it is. So that will show like where we're brushing, and then I as well like to not paint with it, but it's cool to kind of see where you've painted with that specific brush stroke.
For sure, for sure. And I'm going to do a second brush stroke. So I'm going to get over here and do new because I want to bring out a little bit here. This is a little bit too bright for me. So I'm going to do, or a little bit too dark. And that's kind of where I want people's eyes to go. So I'm going to brush over this part. Now, if I hit, okay. I didn't know if I could make it red while brushing it. I think I just have to mouse over to show you guys.
There it is. So we have some new people joining us in the chat real quick that I want to say hi to. We have Kristi. Hello. Hey, how you doing? And then we have Cal, Patty. And yeah, thank you. Thank you again, everybody. Welcome to the chat. This is an open conversation. We're here to have a two-way forum with everybody. So if you have any questions for Kristi, any questions about her edits, why she does a certain thing that she does, please join us in the chat. Engage with us. We're here to be with you and do some photography editing together.
So I think it's starting to look a lot better. But for me, if you look up in the upper left here, you'll notice that this area is drawing your eye away from what's going on. This area right here, it's too bright. Your eyes are kind of drawn to the points of the most contrast, the lighter parts of the image. So I'm going to do a whole nother exposure brush, but this time I'm going to kind of bring the light down a little bit. I'm going to burn in this area just a touch. When I do my work, I sit here, I dodge and burn so much. There are so many steps. Like it's kind of, yeah, it's crazy the amount of steps I do to like come out with my final image. But they're all super simple steps. So do you guys see this? I'm going to show you before the dodging and burning. And then the after.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, that's already doing so much to the photo, and it's just by using dodging and burning. I mean, very, very valuable with photography.
I'm going to pull this crop overlay back. Do you see how your eye is starting to move in the right direction? One of the tips that I gave yesterday is to really like start understanding eye movement is to start drawing things out. If you look at your own work or look at classic works of art or images on the computer of other people's works, if you take a sheet of paper, I've printed out all these little storyboard things, and I actually for years I would just draw people's work and how my eyes moved, and that way I was able to better understand it and be able to see that more through in camera. So yeah, a little suggestion there, because eye movement, it's kind of abstract, it's kind of difficult to understand. Or it's difficult to master, I would say. It's like very challenging. That's the edit I ended up doing online. It's a little different, but it's pretty close. I think I had it just a little bit lighter and brought out a little bit of texture in the, let's see, just just a touch lighter, so we can go a little bit like my original edit. It's really hard to edit a picture in the same way twice. I think I just added just a little bit of texture and clarity to bring out. I think I also may have added just a few highlights just to bring out some of, so that looks pretty close now. I actually kind of like how I edited today better.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how that works out, huh? There's been many times before where I have to replicate and edit just with my workflow. It just, sometimes it doesn't save. And then you try and replicate it, and it's just very, very hard to get it exactly how you did it the first time. And like just how we saw, sometimes the second time around ends up looking better than what we tried in the first time. So
exactly. Well, this photograph was taken in Kenya. I was watching this elephant and her kids in the watering hole. One of the things that I'm constantly looking for in images is, animals don't have the same way of sharing expression as we do. They don't have smiles and tears and facial expressions. So I'm always looking for how they connect and how they connect in their way. And a lot of times it's through touch. So I'm looking for these moments where, and that's why I love this image. I love that the child is connecting with the mom, connecting in a way, touching her face. And I think that's why this image ended up in my portfolio, is because it's a cool moment. And it's a moment where it makes me feel. You guys ready to move on to the next one?
Lalo's asking, do you dodge and burn here on Lightroom? Yep. This is
pretty much. Yep. Yeah, I'll show you guys before. Pretty much everything is dodging and burning. It's like super simple. But this is before and this is after. I still have my Lightroom or my darkroom tools for dodging and burning over here. I don't know if you guys saw these yesterday. These are the ones I used to use.
Yeah, we touched up on those yesterday. Those are homemade tools.
This is what I used to use in a darkroom for dodging and burning.
For dodging and burning. I love it. So that's the traditional way of doing it, and now we're doing it all digitally by just brushing. So
much
we live in.
Easier, right?
Yeah.
So speaking of animals touching, I'm going to move on to this image. I love when an image makes you pause. Okay, I love bad jokes. The worse joke, the better. So fill them in the feed, put them in the chat room, make us smile, break up all this educational stuff.
If y'all have any dad jokes, please share them, because this is a safe space for dad jokes.
Oh my goodness. So here we go. This is at Brooks Falls up in Alaska. Have any of you guys been and seen the bears in Alaska? They're kind of amazing. But this was the edit that I used in my portfolio. The image that I shot out of camera was this.
Oh, wow. That's a huge difference.
Yeah, right? But it really is just subtle changes. Cropping, dodging and burning, converting to black and white. I like to do things in Lightroom that I could replicate in a darkroom. So I try to keep it as true to the image as I can. So we're going to start with the crop. Look, if you look at this, like the moment is the cub touching her mom's back, and the cub and how, she's got her hands folded as her mother's fishing and taking way too long to catch her fish. So to me, there's a connection, a little bit of affection, and there's also a little bit of boredom, which is why I love this image. But everything that you put in the frame, there's an old quote. It's what you exclude is just as important as what you include in an image. I'm not really sure. I wish I remember who said it, but it's a brilliant quote, because everything that you put in that frame and you put in that image is going to be there forever. For me, this grass on the left side, even the just little hint of the bear's face, it wasn't adding to the narrative that I wanted. So I'm going to, it would have been nice if I had a longer zoom and I could have just done this out there, but I like to stay quite minimal with my gear, and I was fully extended with my lens here. So we're going to go and crop down where the action is happening, which is, in my opinion, right here. I'm going to toggle these spirals, and not everything works with a Fibonacci spiral. It's kind of like, if it works, it's like, yes. A lot of times I'm using the thirds. A lot of times I'm using other things. So we're gonna just crop down there. I think the knee is still a little distracting, so I'm gonna pull in I want to keep the shape of the back though. So I probably
real quick, Reynold is asking, are you going over the next step in Photoshop or is, excuse me, or is everything you do in Lightroom?
I'm going to go through, I do most everything in Lightroom, but there are the occasional things I do in Photoshop. And if we have time, I'm going to show you something that I use Photoshop for a little bit later in this program. There's a couple of tools in Photoshop that I adore. I love the fact that you can just work on different layers and you know, mask through those layers. So a lot of times if I'm doing some real heavy work, I'll do it in Photoshop. I also love that, you know, honestly, I like the tool better for healing in Photoshop. So if there's, you know, a lot of dirt on my sensor or my frame, sometimes the healing tool I find to be a little superior in Photoshop than Lightroom. Is that okay I think it's with the content aware stuff, it's like really good.
Yeah. I mean, I think they're two totally different tools, right? And depending on your workflow and what you do with your photography, you kind of pick the right tool for the job. And yeah, I mean, Kristi does most of her work in Lightroom, and then for finite things, then she'll hop on over Photoshop. And I would say I do the same thing. I mean, 95% of the edits I do in the photos that I work with are also Lightroom, and then I'll just fire up Photoshop for very specific things. Real quick, Kristi, I just want to check something real quick technically. Can you make sure that you have your Blue Yeti mic that you're sharing with us?
Yeah.
Oh no, on Zoom. Can you?
Oh, did it cut over to the different microphone?
It might have. I just want to make sure that Zoom is picking up the Blue Yeti mic. If it is, then we're good.
Okay, let me just check. Hang on, let me figure out what.
Yes, if you just hover down next to the little microphone icon, there's a little arrow, and then I just want to make sure that Zoom is picked up.
Okay, give me a second. Let's see.
In the meantime, I'm going to look at the chat. Content aware Paco. Yes. The content aware fill, content aware scale in Photoshop is just straight up magic. So those are great things to use Photoshop for.
I'm sorry. Yeah. I've closed that window. I apologize.
Oh, it's all right. Let's not worry about it. If it's hard to dig up, then it's all good.
I'm just scared of cutting the connection that I have now.
Yeah.
Is this okay? Because I think I have to go. I'm sorry. Oh wait, hang on. I might be able to do it there. Okay. No, I'm sorry. I don't have that screen.
No, it's all right. No worry about it then. Let's keep on keeping on. Okay. Brandon is asking.
Oh, you're right. It did go over. I found a way. Okay, sorry.
It's all right. Yeah, I just noticed it.
Is that better?
Oh, that's so much better. Okay. I had a feeling that the mic switched on you. It sounded really echoey, and we could hear a lot of sound in the background, but it sounds a lot more crisper now that you switched. So.
Wonderful. I'm sorry about that. You know, when people are watching you do things, it takes a lot longer for everything. So things that are simple, like check your microphone, is all of a sudden like, let me share my Lightroom back because I'm assuming it went away.
No, we still got Lightroom.
Oh, you do?
Cool. That sounds awesome. Great. Troubleshooting on the job. I love it. That's like 90% of my job.
No worries.
Steve, Steve is saying my mic is a bit bassy. It is. It's the Rode NTG3, and it's notorious for being bassy. So, good ear, Steve. Okay. Cool. Let's keep on with the edits.
All right. So we're gonna go in here. I don't know if you guys saw me build these black and white presets yesterday, but I'm gonna talk a little bit about that because I really like some of the black and white presets that I set yesterday. I think this one is a great starting point for this image. Is it okay for me to use a preset from yesterday, or should I just start from scratch here?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Can I use a preset from yesterday, or should I just start from scratch?
Yeah, whatever you want to do. If you want to start with presets, let's do it.
All right, so I like that preset, right? It's a little bit light. I'm going to pull it down just a bit. I'm going to pull up my highlights because I really like, and if you hit the Alt button and you pull your whites up, you can kind of see if you start to clip anything, which is nice. So I'm going to go really contrasty with this. I don't want to lose these blacks that I'm losing there. Do you guys see that? So when I use that, I can see if any of the, I'm losing the details in the blacks. So by hitting Alt and sliding things, I can see where all the blacks go kind of lifeless and have no tones to them anymore. And we don't want that, right? So I'm going to just kind of play around with exposure, with my whites, with my blacks. I'm going to play around with a vignette, which there was a vignette already there because it was already built into the preset that I applied. And then I am going to do an adjustment brush here because those blacks are just way too black for me. So I'm going to pull them up just a little bit so that I can make sure that I have a little bit of detail there. But yeah, no, I find that like my eye is way too distracted by this area, or I want my eye to be in here. So I'm going to use this adjustment brush. I'm going to make it, you can make your adjustment brush bigger and smaller by hitting is this called the left bracket and the right bracket? What are these buttons called?
Yeah, I believe the left and right bracket, and those are going to make them bigger or smaller, I believe.
Cool. So I'm going to take the exposure down just a little bit right here. I like the hip. See how I'm kind of, and then I'm going to take this, I'm going to use, you guys remember what my favorite brush in black and white was yesterday?
Yes, I remember.
Iris Enhance. Use that right here.
This is a great cool pro tip from Kristi. So Iris Enhance is traditionally meant, literally what it does is make the irises, the eyes pop, but she actually uses it as a brush to dodge and burn, and it's got amazing results doing it that way.
I love that it's got a little exposure and it's got just a touch of clarity as well. So it can also like just make the areas of interest, like for me in this image, it's the claws. It can just give it that little extra sharpness to help draw the eye in. So this is what I have so far. I'm going to pull the highlights just a touch more. Okay, pull the blacks. Yeah, I'm thinking that looks pretty good now. I would honestly really just do another adjustment brush, another exposure, because my eye is drawn just a little bit too much down here. So just burn a little bit there. Kind of maybe just a touch there too. Okay, do you guys see how your eyes are now moving in a different way? I'm gonna show you guys the before and after.
That's amazing. I love that.
So simple things can take you a really long way, and sitting there, and I mean, most of my editing is just sitting and doing dodging and burning. Because I have done all these different steps here, I'll show you guys the edit I did for my website. A little different, but yeah.
I think the idea is still there. I mean, the eye is definitely drawn to the paws and the back of the mom's back.
Now, I actually really liked a whole bunch of images from this series, and I know that the next image I'm going to edit is this scene, but it's a little bit of a higher up of the faces of the bears. So I'm going to make a preset here. So I'm going to add a new preset, create preset. Okay, I'm going to look and make sure all the things are checked. Yesterday, I forgot to check saturation when I was doing this once. So we're going to call this Adobe Bear Black and White. And yeah, everything looks to be, I didn't use any graduated or radial filters. So now the preset that I've just made, my bear preset, is right here.
There it is. And that's how we make a preset. We had a question in the chat. Someone was asking to go through the process of making a preset, and there it was. We just did it in probably less than a minute. I mean, it's super easy. Just got to go to the navigator presets, click that plus button. And I think it's important to really look at those checkboxes and make sure that whatever you want the preset to have is checked off, and when you don't, checked off. Like for example, like the graduated filter or the radial filter, sometimes you don't want that relayed to presets because it was specific to that photograph, right?
Exactly. And we'll do that one more time real quick because I did like the contrast and the colors and everything for the elephant. So if I had a series of elephant shots, how I edited here and how I found the exposure, I think is great. Like it works. So I would go up here and I would hit this plus button that says add new preset, go to create preset. And then in here, I'm going to title this Adobe Color Elephant. So if I was, I really loved a lot of the photos in this series with the elephants. So there were a lot of, using this preset and being able to start the process and start the edit with the tools I've already made, definitely beneficial to workflow. Yeah. I've got everything I want selected. I definitely want my color, my saturation, my adjustments. Everything. So I'm going to hit create. There. So now I've got it over here, the Adobe color elephant preset. Okay, so we just did the pause and we're going to move
Now,
on.
I do have to ask about this photo, Kristi. How close or how far were you when you took that?
I was actually fairly close. This was at Brooks Falls. Brooks Falls has, there's a waterfall that attracts a lot of the bears when the salmon run. And so there's a platform that they've built so that you can safely look at the bears from a platform.
Oh, that's amazing. The reason I ask is usually when you see a cub, that's amazing. But what you want to look for when you see a cub is the mama bear.
Exactly.
The mama bear isn't so friendly. But that's great. I had no idea that they kind of had sort of a safe platform where anybody can go and shoot the bears.
They do have a safe platform. It's a little tricky to get to. You have to take a float plane and go to Katmai National Park. And you can camp out there and it's unbelievable. But there's a couple of months in particular that if you can be one of the people within 2 minutes to get the camping permits or the lodge permits, then you can, go spend the night and stay in this area. And there's bears everywhere. And they've got rangers making sure everyone's safe. It's one of the U.S. national parks. But as you can see, like, I was using my 70 to 200. This was fully extended at 200.
Yeah.
So it's not that far away, and you guys saw the raw, so I'm not sitting there like massively cropping into the image or anything like that. It's just, it is a crop. Like I cut a good 15% of the image out or something like that. But
Reynold is asking, do you only use presets when the images are all similar? That's a good question.
I love starting with my presets. The presets for me are like a starting point. So I've got my whole collection of black and whites, and if you guys do look on the left, you'll see black and white 0, black and white 1 and 2. And those I made in the program yesterday, which is now up on YouTube and still on Behance. And so a lot of times, like, I will use the color profile, the color presets and the black and white presets as a starting point. And then I edit further from there because dodging and burning is very specific to the image. And presets don't capture the dodging and burning areas. Presets just kind of capture the overall adjustments. Am I correct there, Paco?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I just want to make sure. And so that's, for me, presets are a starting point whenever I'm editing projects.
Yeah, I agree. It's great to kind of get this like quick look on how the photo could turn out, right? And then it's a great starting point, and then obviously you kind of go in and really do finite adjustments, whether that's through dodging or burning or kind of playing with the global sliders, or, you got each photograph is like a little bit different than the other. So it's good to kind of not just slap on a preset and call it a day. You want to give it the love it deserves.
Yes. People and the masters of darkroom work, Jerry Ullsman and Ansel Adams, like they spent days in the darkroom perfecting their images. The tools are so easy now, but I do believe that every image before it's finished needs just a little bit of dodging and burning. And there's this wonderful thread that went out on the internet that was all these iconic images, and it was the darkroom editing notes and how they were put on the images. So it'd be like +1 here, -1 here. And it's a really cool, it just shows you that these tools, dodging and burning tools, have been out there from the very beginning. No matter how people kind of feel about photography, everybody kind of accepts dodging and burning as an acceptable editing technique. Being in the nature industry, there's a lot of, things that people don't want people to do to images to keep them very true to what the image is. But dodging and burning is always totally fine. Well, I think it is, unless I'm missing some sort of...
We have one more question. Is using presets similar to synchronizing settings across a number of images?
Actually, you can do both. And I'm going to I'm going to show you guys a little later when I do synchronize across a whole bunch of images. The thing about the presets is that they're there the next day. And, like these ones I built yesterday. And, one of the things I was showing yesterday is I had a squirrel that kept on popping up. And I had this squirrel preset, so I could go back to my squirrel preset. And so a lot of times, like, having a preset will help if you're, for me too, like going back and forth from black and white to color. I don't want to synchronize everything because maybe I'll do 3 or 4 images in black and white, and then maybe I'll do 1 in color or something like that. So synchronizing, it's a little different, but synchronizing does other things that the presets don't. Synchronizing, it's really cool if you have like dust on your sensor of your camera. When you synchronize, you can synchronize like spots that you're removing, and you can synchronize dodging and burning specific areas. But you can't do that with presets. Okay, I like to fact check. Sometimes I'm like, maybe,
Yeah, I mean, to the best of my knowledge, I think that's the important distinction. Is synchronize will literally copy everything that you did from the previous photo with, I mean, you can just check everything. And then presets, it's more so like the adjustments and the dodging and burning and all that. So that was a great question, Rob. Yes, keep them coming. All of you, everybody's on fire with these questions. So cool.
I love them. And today, actually, Paco, I didn't pull up my chat window. So if you see anything that you want to shout out, I'm just going to trust you with the chat. If that's okay.
Yeah, I got it right next to my Wirecast window. So I'm just asking away if anybody asks.
Perfect. I found I didn't. Yeah. Okay. So we go from this. I pull the camera up a little bit and I see the face and the cub's just looking back at me.
I love that face. He's kind of like, what's up? It's such a great look. I love that photo.
Thank you. So here's the raw. Right? It's not.
And are these grizzlies or black bears? Because sometimes black bears can have brown furs if they get older or younger, but these look like grizzlies to me.
So they're brown bears.
They're brown bears.
But grizzly is a type of brown bear.
Yeah. So they are brown bears. So yeah, black bears are pretty dominant in the Sierras in California. And where did you take the shot? Was this Alaska?
This was Katmai National Park up in Alaska, Brooks Falls.
Yeah, so there's definitely brown bears there.
So, okay. But here's the image. And, I shot this image the same as I shot the paws, because you can even see the cub's paw and her mom a little bit in the bottom. So it's the same sequence, the same lighting. I think I had the same camera settings, or close. I could check, but pretty close. So I did just build that preset, my black and white bear preset. So let's check that out. Okay, it's a little bit, maybe the light had changed just a little bit on the bright side, but I'm going to start with that preset. Use the preset as the starting point. Pull the light down just a little bit. Actually, the preset looks pretty good with the highlights and stuff, so it just needed to be a little bit darker on the exposure. Okay. Oh, I didn't do my first step, which is I always start with the crop. I didn't start with the crop. Sorry, guys. I'm going to move just a little bit in. I like this line in the corner going from the bear's back.
Oh, Kristi, we have a dad joke from Tim.
Yes.
Are you ready for it?
I'm ready.
It's, what do you call a bear without any teeth?
Without any teeth.
It's a gummy bear.
Oh my gosh. I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm going to steal that if that's all right. That's
job,
fantastic, Tim. You're awesome.
That's a good one. I like that one. Very on theme.
Oh my gosh. What do you call a skinny dipping bear?
A skinny bear?
A bear.
A bear. Oh, that is a dad joke for sure.
I love really bad jokes. I have a history of telling them on stage when I'm giving my presentation and just having nobody laugh. For some reason, it makes me loosen up. I get less nervous when I'm making a fool out of myself. Yeah. It's like
it's good to have fun with it, We're not taking ourselves terribly seriously, and I think that's why these streams are fun. We're having fun, but also being educational. Lalo has a question. It says, sorry for my ignorance, but before you showed a tool that was used in the early days to dodge and burn, what is it and how was it used? I think he's referencing the homemade dodging and burning tools you use.
Oh, yeah. So back in the darkroom days, you had light going through your enlarger and then going onto a sheet of paper, and you were using that to, expose your paper. So this light going through the enlarger and going down, you'd basically take this and you would dodge and burn. So this is dodging here. So I would dodge a spot, like say I wanted a little, I guess this would be burning everything. Yeah. Say I wanted a little bit more light on everything except for one spot. Like here, like the eyeball of the bear is too dark. So I may put the enlarger and put the light through and then line that up when I see the light hit the paper. And then I would move this around so that I was getting a little bit less light on that eye. If I wanted a little bit more light on a certain spot, I'd put this on the enlarger, put the light through. You can move it up and down to make that circle bigger or smaller. If you went all the way up, you could even do a little bit of a vignette with a tool like this. But yeah, it was a way of blocking and letting more light through, which is, yeah, these are very common darkroom tools, and this was made from a coat hanger upstairs just because I wanted to show you guys like how the old schools did it with dodging and burning, and now it's like really easy.
It's super cool, and this would make a lot more sense visually if you've actually been in a darkroom, right? Because I did it a long time ago, but it's what it is. Like, you have the negative and then you shine a light on this like print, and then the light that's shining there, depending on how long you have it shining, is going to determine the exposure, right? So it's essentially what we're doing digitally, but you used to have to do that manually with just like shining light and blocking it in certain areas or allowing it to shine more in certain areas. And it was literally a manual way of doing what Lightroom is. That's how it all started. And then of course we came in the age of digital photography, and now you could just do that with sliders, but it's essentially the same principles are still there, which I think is super cool.
Okay, so for me here, what sings in this image is the baby bear's face. The baby bear's face, or the young bear's face, is getting lost. So I'm actually going to darken up the whole image, and then I'm going to dodge the face, right? So I'm not looking at the face because the face is probably going to go a little too dark, but I'm looking at how I want the background. Okay, so the background, I think that that's a good, nice, dark background, right? Now I'm going to go back with the adjustment brush. I'm going to make it nice and big. I'm going to go over the bear's face, and I'm going to lighten the exposure up. Okay, do you guys see how, and I'm going to actually pull the whites a little bit more. All right, so something like that. Now I find that my eye's going towards baby bear a little bit more. I'm going to do another adjustment brush with my favorite, Iris and Hands. And I'm going to just add just a little bit more. Do you see how it's making the fur just a little sharper there and bringing your eye in just a touch? Yeah. And then I'd probably actually, I kind of like that. I was going to say I might bring down a little bit more here if I was just being nitpicky, but I think that this is a nice edit. It's pretty close to the edit it's actually very close to the edit I did. I had a little bit heavier of a vignette on the one I did for my portfolio. So I could pull the vignette just a touch more. Yeah, and let's see how this lines up with my golden spiral. I don't think that...
There it is.
Actually, it lines up pretty well.
Yeah.
So
beautiful.
That's kind of... Yeah.
All right, I think we have to celebrate with this with 2 more dad jokes that I see in the chat. Okay.
Okay, sounds
Why
good.
did the silly man keep 8 hibernating bears on his porch? He heard there was safety in numb bears.
Oh, nice. Good.
And then one more. What happens if you leave a bear outside in the rain for too long? He becomes a drizzly bear.
Oh, that one's so fantastic. That one's good. I love it. Oh my gosh, you guys are amazing. I love the bear jokes.
Oh, and then that was Tim. He's on fire. He goes, sorry, I'll keep the puns to a bare minimum.
Oh gosh, I love it. I love it. Bear minimum. Bear me.
Bear me.
Okay. So the next one, I'm going to give you one more bear shot. Was honestly a huge, I thought it would be a lot simpler of an edit, but it wasn't. So this was the final. Okay, this was an interesting situation because the bears were in the nice light where the light's over my shoulder and all pretty. And then the bears ran to the other side. The water was really shallow. It was a low tide. And so they were running around and splashing and fighting. And when they ran into the sun, I got really excited and I wanted to silhouette them. So I exposed for the background to bring them to darkness. I exposed, and then I chose a shallow depth of field because I really wanted a little bit of sparkles and to separate them from the background. I wanted the background to be fuzzy.
Furry.
The bears are furry. The background's fuzzy. Yeah. So, but I was pretty excited about the out of camera shot I got. I was really excited when I saw it. So it's fairly close. And when I saw the bear in the air, I was like, yes. But to me, one of the first things in determining if something goes black and white or not is, does the color add to the narrative? For this, the color is the background color I find it to be just not a very appealing color, and the way it hits with the gray, I wasn't a fan of the color. So on this image, the very first thing I did, actually, I'm just going to test my presets because I tend to do that. Oh, that first preset might be a good starting point. But this image is just so different that I feel like I really need to, yeah, I'm going to start with pulling the saturation. Now I want these bears to go straight into silhouette. So I'm actually going to first start by adjusting the exposure because I want the background to be just a little lighter. I really am not a fan of that muddy gray that they are. And then I'm going to go and pull the black. I'm going to hit the Alt button. Let's see. Now, this is a case where I don't mind if I clip my blacks because silhouettes are black, you know?
Yeah, it's part of the shot.
Yeah, so I don't really mind at all. So I'm just going to play a little bit, and I'm going to add a lot of contrast, right? So I'm just moving these around a little bit. Now it's starting to come together. I forgot my step number 1, crop, right? Okay, so here's a fun tool. I showed this a little bit yesterday.
Yeah, I love that tool. I use it so much.
So when you crop, you can use this ruler and put it on the horizon, and it'll straighten it for you. Right.
Yeah. So you got to draw a line on the actual horizon line, and it'll do it. And I actually saw someone, I forget who it was, but they did it on Adobe Live as well. They actually used it vertically. So they did that with a tree. So a tree that in the shot that's supposed to be straight, they put the line on the tree vertically instead of horizontally, and it also straightens it out. It's super cool.
Whoops. I'm going to use the rule of thirds on this one. That's cool. I didn't know you could do that horizontally.
Yeah,
That's
me neither.
awesome.
The things you learn on these shows. It's great.
It's like awesome. Okay, so I'm going to crop in. One of the things that I had trouble with is I usually don't like cutting shapes on the left-hand side. Like I usually don't cut a bear by the waist, by the arm. Like I don't really like cutting. But the one thing that I found worked was I ended up cropping it like that. So this line kind of stayed in with the shape. So I actually think that
I see a Choco cameo.
Oh, is she up?
Yeah.
Oh, this is my lovely dog, Choco. And if you guys want to see her a little better, her favorite thing in the world. You want a carrot? Come. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there she is.
Hey, sweetheart.
She's a cutie.
Oh, she's the best dog that ever was. Like, here, I'll move my camera a little bit just so that she can be in the camera. But she sometimes just sits up there next to me, and yeah, she's a sweetheart. Okay, on this, one of the things that, the water in the foreground made the bear on the right, the black doesn't look black enough for me. So I'm going to use my adjustment brush. I'm going to go to blacks, and I'm going to paint this bear. The blacks are pulled the wrong way, so I'm going to go back down here and pull it this way.
We have a Delma in the chat.
Have a what?
Hi from Brazil. Hi, Delma. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, you okay, buddy?
Oh, she's a cutie. Here, we'll get him more. We'll go to the Choco cam.
The Choco cam.
Here we go, the full screen. There she is. It's a she, right? She or
yeah. She's a sweet dog. Come closer, a little closer. Come here. Oh.
Choco, what a sweetie.
She's gotten this white face. It's funny at night. She just looks like a ghost. So she comes in and she's got that little white that comes through.
The white will probably, thing that's noticeable in the dark.
Oh, are you okay? Yeah, I've never had an elderly dog before. She's a sweetheart. So, okay. But yeah, no, it's just a lot of little fine details and moving back and forth a little bit. I actually like the image a little bit darker. But yeah, just kind of fidgeting around. So that's pretty close to what I ended up with. I think I spent a little more time on the blacks. And I think I also spent just a little bit more time. I think I ended up pulling just a little bit of clarity on this because I wanted, oh, no, I don't like that. Yeah, maybe doing a little bit of the iris enhance just around to get a little bit of the texture out. Yeah, so that's kind of what I did. Simple, right?
Beautiful, yeah.
Okay, now I just pulled this one in just because I, I wanted to show you guys that, you go through these images and like these bears, they weren't playing. And I ended up like photographing spider webs in the morning one day. And sometimes when you have this list of presets, it's like, it makes it so easy. It's like, look, this is done, right?
Wow.
That's a preset I built yesterday, the black and white 0. Do a little bit of cropping there, but I love little things that help bring you into the scene. So when I showed like a series of bear images, like being able to put an image of like, hey, it was a wet, misty morning and, there were these spider webs out. So it was nice to help set the feeling of the day. And this image, like that's one of the reasons I put it in is I just want to show that like, sometimes you don't need to do much when you have these presets kind of built up. You build them up however, fits your style or fits however you're shooting. And that's why it's good to kind of just, you find out that you're editing things the same way over and over and over again. So it's nice to, skip that step.
Yeah, it's the beauty of presets. You literally just click on it and it slaps them on. And in this case, it looks like you didn't have to do much. Just the preset kind of just gave us that look that you were looking for.
Yeah, so I really liked the minimum depth of field because I feel like it brought out these pearls, but then I also really enjoyed the shape of this. Like I enjoyed the black space and everything like that. So I had a lot of fun with this.
Awesome. Linda says, I am in love seeing your work on these images. You are an amazing photographer.
Oh, Linda, you've made my day. Thank you. It's so kind of you. So are you ready to do the whale shark?
Let's do the whale shark. And before you do that, just time check. We have about 38 minutes before we're going to get into some design feedback for the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge.
Great.
So real quick, I'll show everybody Discord. I'm going to switch to my computer. Yeah. So here's Discord. And if we go to the Photoshop channel under current challenge, this is where you can submit your challenges for today. And that challenge for today was design an icon using the line tool and shape tool. Try offsetting your lines to add depth. So I encourage everybody to submit so Kristi and I can give you some feedback on your challenges. Okay, back to your screen.
Okay, tell me when you're ready. Okay, so yesterday I talked a little bit about this whale shark shot, but I'm going to repeat like how I got this. I had done a lot of diving and, trying to take photos of these whale sharks. But I found something really special happen when I was on the surface of the water. So when I was snorkeling and I put all the dive stuff away, I found that the light started diffracting around my body. Diffraction is when an object causes light to bend. Okay. So for me, I'm all about patterns, and I really wanted to mix the pattern of the stripes of the water diffracting with the spots on the whale shark. So I noticed that whenever I was swimming, I was controlling with my body where those lines were pointing towards. So I swam and swam and swam, and I ended up swimming into a school of jellyfish to get the shot, but that's a different story altogether. I had no wetsuit on. I was on an island without any medication or medical facilities, but it's all good. So anyways, I put this in here to just show you how the diffraction was working. Do you guys see my body?
Check that out. Yeah.
so when the whale
your
shark
shadow on top of the whale shark.
It's really cool. I could put my hands out and like do this. And when I twinkled my fingers, it was like these rays. I felt like I was a magician. Cool. It was really cool.
So I'm curious why your shadow is showing on this one, but not on the other one. Were you further up on the surface where it just didn't?
I was further, yeah. So I ended up just kind of being a speck on this one. And if you look like super close, there's
awesome.
kind of, now this shot is extremely hard to get back to this spot, but I'm gonna try my best because underwater you lose a lot of, there's not, you're shooting through a substance, so there's not as much depth. Like the light ends up being quite muted, which is why a lot of people bring a ton of lights and all sorts of things underwater, but I'm a minimalist and I'll just use Lightroom a little bit later. So here's the raw.
Real quick, one more dad joke though that I have to say because I think this one is clever. Saman says, how do billboards talk? Through sign language.
Oh, that's so good. Love it.
That's a good one.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to have so much fun rereading this chat later. This is awesome. You guys are awesome. I so appreciate it.
That's great. I love it.
Okay, so we're going to start by, the color does not add to this image. I actually re-edited in color recently. It was kind of fun, but for me, this is black and white through and through. So that's the black and white, how it starts. I'm going to start by adding as much contrast as humanly possible here, right? Which doesn't do a whole lot. I'm going to add as much black as I can. I'm going to hit the Alt button, make sure I don't clip anything. Looks pretty good. Yeah, add a lot of, and I'm going to pull the whites up as much as, I want to pull these. I'm just going to play with these a little bit, going back and forth. Do you guys see how it's all of a sudden like, this image, I really love this image. It took a lot of dodging and burning, but
beautiful image.
Thank you. At the end of the day, it was pretty, somebody asked me yesterday about graduated filters versus vignetting. This was a situation where I had to use the graduated filters because it already has this kind of dark semi-vignette on the side. So this is my graduated filter right here. So I ended up using that. And I want to select that. I want to bring down this part of the image so that the eye goes in even more. So I'm going to pull the exposure. So I'm going to start at 75. It's probably going to be a little too dark, which it is too dark, but I'm going to kind of do this corner with the graduated filter. And yeah, I don't want to clip my blacks. So we're going to go just a little bit up. All right, now I'm going to do a new graduated filter. And I'm going to do, I unselected it and not selected it. Yeah, like that. Okay. Now do you see how it's kind of bringing your eye? I'm going to do.
That's so cool. You did that with the graduated filter instead of just adding a vignette.
Adding the vignette, it would make this go to black on this left and right.
Agree.
Yeah.
This is something that I've noticed, especially people that come on this, they like to do their own sort of custom vignetting with tools such as the one you're using now. And I think it just gives you more freedom or more customization than just slapping on a vignette, right?
Exactly. And one day I'm going to sit there and like alter all my vignette tools, but I like that better. Do you guys see how it's kind of really bringing you in now?
It really forces you to look at that.
Yeah. So we still have a little way to go to get to that, but it's getting closer. I'm going to zoom in here on the whale shark. I'm going to use I'm going to see how much of wow, we got some serious wind coming in. We had a storm and then sunshine and then wind. I was like, oh my gosh, it's a little crazy. It's like four seasons all in today in Sterling. Okay, I'm going to now select all of this. I usually end up selecting and then picking my tool afterwards, which is probably backwards, but so I'm going to select this whale shark. And I'm actually
saying, wow, learning so much. Thank you.
Well, thank you for being here.
Yeah.
I'm going to start first
welcome.
by adjusting the blacks and I want to pull these blacks down even more. And I want to pull the whites up on the whale shark back. So I'm going to just still adding a lot of contrast here. Right. Okay, and I also want to add a little bit of clarity, a little bit of, I'm just going to make it a little sharper. Okay, let's see. And I'm going to hover over that to just kind of see where, I did not get this fin. In this whale shark, I did play with it a lot, like in post. I didn't play with it in the wild. I played with it in my editing. Okay, so let's see how that's. Okay, do you see how the spots are now really coming out and really enhanced?
They're accentuated now.
So, I worked it a lot more here, but I'm starting to, and I ended up pulling into Photoshop, I think, to get rid of some of these like little spots in the water. And, there's some like, when you're shooting and using light like this, you're going to end up getting like every little spot, So just moving the spots just a little bit. And I think I ended up like brushing this and this and this and this. And I'll show you why I did that in a second. I'm going to move that to a little bit of just bringing highlights because I just want
Steve is saying this is an excellent demo for showing how much information gets saved by shooting in RAW.
For sure.
Yeah.
So
Agreed.
this is the before and the after.
That's amazing. I mean, we probably did like 3 or 4 minutes worth of work, and it's just a completely different photograph. It's beautiful.
Yeah. The one that ended up in my portfolio, I probably spent a good hour on. Like I worked it, really fine-tuned it. But you guys, you can see where it's going.
Right.
I'm going to use this, and I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to create a preset because, yeah, I mean, the underwater stuff, it's like so similar. You know, all the shots have this kind of muted look, and, you know, it's all hovering in the middle range. And so I'm going to do Adobe Shark preset.
Zulfan is asking, will this be posted on Instagram? And it might already be on your Instagram.
This image is on my Instagram, yeah. This image actually went up in the Smithsonian for a year in the Museum of Natural History. I was pretty excited. It won one of the Nature Best competitions. Okay, so I created this preset. And then I pulled another image that I've never actually edited, that when I was going through and prepping for today, I was like, oh, I really like that one. Which is another one in the series. This whale shark's kind of coming out of the light. So I'm going to go and see what that Adobe Shark preset looks like. Well, that's a pretty cool starting point, isn't it?
Yeah. Wow, it really brings out the whale just by putting that preset on. It's amazing.
Right? I mean, it's a lot.
We can already see the rays already that I assume it's your body causing, right? It almost looks like it's jumping into warp drive.
Right? So I'd probably like use that as a starting point and then pull that.
Where's Val when you need her? Voodoo Val is one of our beloved moderators, and she is a Star Wars fanatic, and I'm sure she'd be like, yep, that whale's going into warp drive for sure.
You see my collection.
Oh, check it out. That's so cool. I love it.
Okay. So I'd probably pull this just a little bit, do my crop.
Reynold is asking, what's the longest time you've spent on one photo?
Gosh, well, right when I learned all this stuff, I mean, back in the I started my fine arts degree in 2001, and they had me working in Photoshop back then. And gosh, learning that program, I've spent a lot of time, like, I don't know. I mean, when I wasn't really good at this, like I would spend a very long time. And, you know, I sometimes will even send my images to my print lab to finalize them before print, just because I feel like people that understand paper surfaces will understand how blacks and whites look. And so sometimes I'll just say, you know, enhance the contrast for printing and go to a print master. I use quite a few people that I love and I trust with my images. But gosh, that's a hard question. I don't know. I've spent a lot of time. The photo I'm going to show you guys next, the edit that I'm going to show you guys, you know, these are the ones I spend a little bit more time on, because I have this, I'm going to show you guys an image stack. And so sometimes, like back before I had this set up with the computers that I have, like, you know, I'd wait a really long time for the processing and all that good stuff. Speaking of my computers, I do want to give a shout out and a thank you to a few people, if that's okay. Like, I was really scared having a setup in my home to go out to, you know, the Adobe Live audience, and I had some amazing people help me get prepped for this. One being my people over, my folks at Nikon, like my local rep, Molly. She is amazing, and, you know, even called her freaking out, like, hey, it's not working, and helped me practice. And we had an hour-long practice session yesterday morning. And Molly, you're amazing. But I also want to thank the people over at Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt 3 is the connection I use for my hard drives, and they sent me a dock system. The guys over at Intel and the Thunderbolt division really helped me out with this, and super grateful. And I'm grateful for the people at ASUS that have helped me get computers that can handle this sort of stream and processing as I'm shout out. If you guys are interested at all in like my setup, I've got a photo of it. I'm happy to share, and I'm happy to share with all the pieces I use to do this broadcast from my house. So giant thank you for everyone that's been behind the scenes helping me out with getting set up to be able to do this.
Awesome. All sorts of help. I love it.
Now we're going to go and we're going to try to do something different, if that's okay. Can we move? Are we okay we're good on time and everything?
Yeah, we got plenty of time. We still have about 25 minutes before we go into the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge feedback. So
Cool. Maybe I'm going too fast then. Well, we can always chat. Okay, so these are very special images to me. So I love taking time-lapse images, but I set my camera up for time-lapse, and I kind of do time-lapse for a different reason than to do time-lapse. I do time-lapse to stack an image and see how long of exposure I can kind of get of a scene. So this was a very special moment for me. This was in Poland last year around Christmas time. This was the Christmas markets. And this is the day that my fiance asked me to marry him. And after he proposed, we went to the Christmas markets and we drank some hot wine and sat on this balcony, and I set up a camera to take a time lapse of the market. So I just put it on a GorillaPod and let the camera go. It was my Nikon Z7 24-70 lens, and I just let it run as we were celebrating and having a good time. So this image is a very special image to me. Okay, so I'm gonna go in here, and I've pulled 100 of these in. I shot like a lot more, but for time, I'm just gonna do 100. I'm gonna go into develop and just do a couple of simple adjustments. A little bit of contrast, a little bit of exposure. One of the things I love is when you're getting the white balance, you can always use this white balance selector. And I know that this light right here was a white light, so I'm gonna pick that. It kind of brings the image to a color that works very quickly. So we're gonna add a little contrast. I like the blue of the sky, and I'm going to add a little vignette because I love vignettes. Now, one thing I didn't do is I didn't clean my camera before shooting, so I've got some camera dust.
Camera dust.
I'm gonna actually, since I'm bringing this into Photoshop in the end, I'm just gonna get rid of the really annoying ones, right? Which are just like these couple ones. Okay, so that makes me
The cool thing
happy.
about this, we touched up on this a little bit yesterday, but since it was a static shot, meaning that it didn't move in between shots, essentially if you're just grabbing one of those and you synchronize across the board, it's going to do it for everything.
Which is what I'm going to do. Yes. Yeah. Really excited. So here, this is beautiful. And I'll show you guys, like if I was to build this as create preset, like say this was my Adobe time-lapse demo preset. Okay. Right. So the preset here, I could go to image number 2 and play with that. That's really, okay, so here, so yeah, that's what the preset will do. But it's not gonna get rid of that spot in the sky. If I do this with, well, first off, the previous button, which I love, you hit the previous button, it's going to give you the previous edit, which includes all those little spots, which is really nice, right? But I don't want to go through 100 images and hit previous, right?
I'm going to move us so they can see what you're talking about. So there's the previous button. So we were covering it with our cameras, but it's right there. Cool.
So previous does your previous edit, which I think is fantastic. And I learned that from watching an Adobe feed. Okay, so we're going to go Adobe Live. We're going to go and we're just going to select them all, which you can scroll over and select them all, or you can Control A them. And then we're going to do sync. And sync is going to take all those images. And I want to make sure even spot removal is checked here because of that ugly spot in the sky. And for this, for time lapse, I didn't do any local adjustments, but if I did, I just want everything to stay the same. I want the crop to stay the same. Like I didn't crop this, but if I had cropped it, I want the crop to be synchronized. So this is where I think a sync works a lot better than doing a preset, especially since I don't want to put it on 100 images. So I'm going to sync all these images and it's going to, done, right? So we're going to look at, when the night got a little darker, a little bit lighter, but this was the synced image. This was the before image and that was the after. So now everything is kind of uniform.
I'm curious to know, as the night got darker and the light changed, did you have some sort of automatic setting on your camera that compensated for the light change?
No, there's a whole art to time lapse. Like you could go into like days and days of teaching time lapse and, day to night and how to alter that stuff. But this was just straight, simple time lapse because I was
would argue, since you shot raw, if it wasn't too much of an extreme light change, right? Like you weren't going from night to day, you can kind of just increase the exposure on the raw files and kind of keep a consistent light.
It would be challenging. I actually shot this in JPEG.
JPEG.
Sometimes, but the Z7 has 45.7 megapixel files, and so sometimes when I'm doing time lapse, I'll throw the camera on JPEG.
Yeah, that would take a
I'm
lot of
just like,
space.
yeah, when you're
I
shooting
think, yeah, I saw it yesterday, but it actually showed the size of the photograph, and it was just some crazy number. I'm like, yeah, that's a big file.
yeah, so these are shot in JPEG, but yeah, I never shoot in JPEG unless, and I get so grumpy sometimes when I put my camera on time lapse and I put it on JPEG, since I never do JPEG unless it's time lapse, I'll forget, and then I'll go out and shoot something and I'll be like, no.
Yeah, but I mean, it's you got to know what the output is, right? Because sometimes JPEG is the right format, especially if you're concerned about space or it's not anything too crazy that you know you might edit. Like JPEG does work with small adjustments, but when you're really starting to make crazy adjustments, then it really starts to be noticeable. But for something like this, I mean, I would argue JPEG could work for sure, and which it does. I mean, we're seeing it right now.
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice to, and it was, so I did a slower shutter. I did 5-second exposures because I wanted the movement.
Yeah,
and one of the
that
things,
dreamy, blurry movement.
yeah, and so, and you'll see when I select the new image, it'll like show the spot in the upper and then it disappears because it's synced them all. But it's nice to have all these different, and I kind of was really, when you do image stacking of skies and different things, like you see these beautiful streaks of color. And so I was kind of interested to see the lines from the chaos of the people in the market, how people move through it and stuff like that. So I've got all these selected, and I'm going to file export, which you can also Control-Shift-E to get to this. I'm going to export them into the same folder. Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to pull these down. Now, this is not what I suggest doing, just because of how long this can sometimes take. I'm going to make smaller files, right? So this is going to be a web resolution image at the end. So you want to keep it at a higher resolution, a higher pixel count. I'm just doing it at screen resolution, 72 pixels per inch at 200 pixels across the longest. And I'm cutting down the quality a little bit because I don't want you guys to sit there and watch my computer process for too long, even though this is a super fast machine. But so I'm going to start exporting that. So it's going to export these 100 images for me and put them into a folder that I called sedit2.
We have some new people in the chat that I want to give a shout out to. Anna, welcome. She says, hello everyone, late to the stream, but I'm definitely going to rewatch these streams. And then we have FCN Creative saying, hey everyone. Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. It's been such an awesome stream so far. Kristi's given us all sorts of pro tips on our workflows. She edited a lot of our portfolio pictures and showed you how she got that magic. So it's been great. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you guys for being here. This might take a minute. So do we have any questions from the forum while it's exporting these 100 files for me?
Eric is asking, thoughts on using camera raw filter on JPEGs?
Camera raw filter on JPEGs? I've never done that. I would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I think camera raw filter is something you can use on Photoshop, or it essentially is taking the same edits that you can do on Lightroom. Eric, I would say JPEGs can be edited to a certain extent, right? They don't have as much information as raw photographs. So if you edit them a lot using a JPEG, you'll start to see that the image does start to break down. So I would say just try it out on a JPEG and see how far you can push your photographs, right? Because depending on your camera, whether you're shot on a smartphone, on a pro DSLR or a prosumer DSLR, there's going to be different amounts of information to work with. So just try it out. I mean, every time, all this stuff is sort of arbitrary. So just see how camera raw filter works on a JPEG and you'll be surprised. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. And if it doesn't, then be like, okay, let's shoot raw. So test it out for yourself. See how it works. All right, we have Stony Jackson. Hi, everyone. Love this. And then Eric's again is saying, I do it on images that are high end, but not commercial use. Definitely. Yeah, agreed.
All right. So we're on
Photoshop now.
It's all up and going. I did a new headshot for this stream. So that's my new headshot. Last thing I edited. Okay. So we're going to go here and we're going to go into File and we're going to go into Scripts and we're going to go to Load Files into Stack. Okay. This is how I do it. There's other ways to do it. This is just how I do it. So we're going to browse for the files and we're going to go to sedit2, which is where I put all these. I'm going to select all these files, all 100 of them, hit OK. And when they're loading, I'm going to make sure that I select this Create Smart Object after loading layers, which it'll let me select that in just a minute when things get in there. Okay, do you see that? Okay, and what that does is it puts these all as one smart object with 100 layers in that one object.
Wow.
So go
awesome.
okay, right? So this is super fun, and this is, I love doing this. So here is all my images opening up. Yeah, so it's going to take just a second. It won't take too long because there's not that big of files, but it'll take a minute. But you see all the images kind of loading in the bottom right?
Right.
And they're going through them, and yeah.
Rob is saying, funny, I followed the link to Kristi's Instagram and I didn't realize I was already following her. Love her pictures.
Well, thank you for following me. I really appreciate it. That's really nice of you. You guys also have to follow Paco. He's got an amazing Instagram feed with all these pictures of Yosemite, and he's been doing hyperlapses. And I was like, I've never actually met this guy in person, but I'd like to. I love all your stuff. It's fantastic.
Well, next time you're in San Francisco, then let's make it happen.
For sure, for sure. Okay, so this is getting close now. Oh, I just woke my dog up and gave her another carrot. All right, so any other questions while we're doing all this? And we're going to go over the creative challenge soon. How much time do we have before that?
We have a little under 15 minutes, so we got time.
Perfect. Great. All right. So, have any of you guys been to Poland?
I haven't. I was actually, right when you pulled that picture up, I was really curious to know where it was. I was going to guess somewhere in Europe, but never been to Poland. Heard great things about it.
It is amazing. It is like unbelievably gorgeous, and it's just not too crazy crowded, and people are friendly. The food is fantastic. The Christmas markets are amazing. Any sort of European Christmas markets have just been like, have any of you guys been to a European Christmas market? I think I went to my first one in Germany, and
I've actually been to one in Germany. It was where was it? It was in Dortmund. And it is so, there's so much going on. I mean, the whole market just comes alive. It was awesome. Tim's from Germany. I believe he's based out of, or close to Munich. So he's definitely been to some, I'm sure.
Great. So now we have it. We have our 100 images as one file. Okay. So we're going to go to layer, smart object.
So Mary's asking, what will stacking do? Are we doing this for an HDR, or what is the goal here?
Oh, you guys are going to see it in just a second.
You're going to see it. She's jumping ahead. Let's see it.
So you go to stack mode. And the interesting thing is it didn't do what I thought would happen. I like the stack mode mean. I kind of stick with mean. I've played around with the other ones, but this one tends to gives you all the images together and puts them as one, right? And what I didn't expect is, this is crazy. Everyone disappeared. Isn't that crazy?
Oh, wow. Check that out.
Yeah.
That's magic. Yeah. So what you did is, how many shots was that? Was that 100?
100. Yeah.
Yeah. So she took 100 shots. And yeah, as you mentioned, these markets are just full of people because they're so popular. But by stacking them, you actually get rid of the people and just keep everything that's not moving, right? I think it just kind of gets rid of all the movement.
Yeah, exactly. I've actually done this with a lot of national landmarks and things like that to get them empty. Just because, it's kind of unfathomable to see certain places empty, but
right.
I mean, right now you kind of can, which is just, a different world. But I think that, for me in this moment in Poland, like when I saw this, I got really excited because I literally thought I was going to just have a whole bunch of lines and movement and directions. But, like thinking about it didn't make as much sense. Like, of course, this is kind of what was going to happen. But it was nice because like it's a special image to me because at that moment it was just me and my fiance and like this beautiful time at the Christmas market. And it's like, I don't even remember everybody else. It just makes me feel like it was just us alone celebrating this beautiful time.
This is such a cool tip. Everybody that's watching, take some notes because if you ever go, and it's true. I mean, if you go to, any of the majority of the popular national parks, in the States or anywhere else in the world, I mean, it's very, very hard to get a shot with nobody in it. But if you have a tripod, and I believe you do kind of want to keep that shutter open a little bit, right? You don't want very fast shutter speed. You do want to slow that shutter speed. So anything around less than a second. I think you shot at, what was it, half a second?
5 seconds.
5 seconds, okay.
Or
so
5-second exposures.
Yeah. So you do that and you take, and do you know how many shots you need to take in order to get this effect?
Oh, I don't know. It just depends.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, I think
this was
she did 100
and
the effect worked flawlessly. So
I think it was pretty cool. And I don't know. I think it's really it's really fun too, because like in this shot we had a sky with no clouds, but if you get clouds, you can get these streaks and this movement, and let's see if I can pull up an example on my Instagram from like an image I took back. But you can get like the direction of the clouds, and you can get the colors, and you can tie-dye the sky, and it is a really cool, fun effect. And so, it was easy too, because I just had like a Gorilla Pod. It was super simple.
Yeah, those things are tiny. They're great for travel too, and they're so flexible.
My camera's on a Gorilla Pod right now for photographing.
Brandon is asking 100 shots over the course of how long?
I don't remember, but I'll go back
if you
into...
did 5 seconds each, so 5 times 100, so 500 seconds.
Well, I mean, I can just go back into Lightroom and look. But I want to show you guys this shot first. So I'm gonna share, new share. Give me a second.
We got about 8 minutes before we gotta jump in.
That's perfect.
So a little bit of a time check.
Okay, so this was at Arches.
This is in Utah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it brought all the lines towards I think I had another one, but I'm not sure exactly where it is. But I had one more that I really liked, that all the lines kind of went into this. I don't know. You guys can look and find it if you really want, but it was, okay, cool. I'm gonna go back and share Lightroom. Share. So let's look. So you were telling the I button gives me, so I didn't, obviously this wasn't at 11:12 a.m. I very rarely change my time zones. So the first shot was 11:12 a.m. and this last shot so it was 29 a.m. So this was over 17 minutes?
17 minutes. Steve Knight is asking, how long was that shot taken for? I'm assuming he's talking about the Royal Arches one.
It was the same thing. It was an image stack.
It was an image stack. Okay.
So it was the same thing. It was probably, I don't know. I usually set the camera up to go for at least 20, 30 minutes. But it's something to play with. Like this is, by all means, go out there and play. And I was tempted to do a brand new one for this, which I've got a building that's, right next to our house. It's got this jagged roof, and I was going to get clouds over the jagged roof just to kind of see. And so it's something with if you've got fast moving clouds, go out there and experiment. And if you do watch the direction of the clouds, a lot of times you can put the clouds moving into your subject and really lead people's eyes in correctly to your subject.
Yeah.
So you can elevate any of these techniques to, do whatever you're kind of looking for. Here's another one.
Kristi, I think you touched up on a very cool point, is just go out and play with your camera and try these things, right? Because there's just so much things you can do. And for example, what Kristi showed with Photo Stack, there are many, many ways to do that. And it's just, go out and figure out which way works best. That's the exciting part about all this, about the photography, about the editing. Fall in love with the process, and just when you fall in love with the process and then you see the end results, I feel like it's this self-feedback, positive, awesome energy loop, it just keeps you going and makes you fall in love with it even more.
That's the thing. Art's a journey, right?
Yeah.
Being an artist is a journey, and it's an exploration. So I, in no means, am an expert of all this stuff, but I love playing and I love experimenting with it. And even getting that empty market that I wasn't expecting ended up just being something that I was really excited about. This one that I just shared at Lake Louise, Alberta, it showed the way that the clouds were bending around the mountain. So it revealed something that I couldn't see, having these longer exposures. There's certain ways to do long exposures. The first way people do it is usually, just you can use these neutral density filters where it's actually like a really dark filter that cuts your camera down like multiple stops so that you can take like 10-second exposures in the middle of the day at waterfalls, and you don't need,
Right.
yeah.
And they come in all shapes and sizes. You can have some that will lower by 2 stops, by like 16 stops. So it really just depends what you're trying to shoot and what the end result is.
Yeah, so that's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there were other things I would have done in Photoshop, like, removing some of the imperfections. There was a big white spot in the middle, but I'm not going to really go into detail about that stuff because that seems to be, I want to hit more on this other stuff unless somebody wants to see it. But do you guys have any other sort of questions?
Checking.
Let's see. I really wish I had that other shot. There was one shot that I got really excited about.
Yeah, Alberto touches up on a good point. We go out now. No, not right this second, right? Obviously, depending where you live, there are certain restrictions on what we can do. But, as soon as all this blows over, then, feel free to just fall in love with the process.
One of the things, too, is that it's really good to experiment and nail down your process before going out to locations. So maybe
That's true. Very good point.
It's playing with learning new techniques so you can have them in your pocket later. Just going outside and photographing the sky over your roof to really just start playing with time-lapse and time-lapse stacking and just, see if you can kind of make things work. But, yeah. So, now's a good time to really learn so that when things do open up, you can hit the ground running with new skills and new, have fun with it. And, some people maybe have shot time lapse in the past and they've got these time lapses at home, and maybe you can open them up and try a stack on a series of time lapse and just see what you got. Because there was a period of time where I was like super into time lapse and I didn't even know I could stack. And then when I started doing the image stacking, I like went back into my archives and was like, oh yeah, I shot a time lapse out of, Joshua Tree National Park. And I actually had this one time lapse that I loved, which was I kept on shooting time lapse of stars in Joshua Tree. And then I went back and I stacked it, and I got these great lines in the stack, which I really loved in contrast with the Joshua trees. So maybe it's a matter of going into your archive if you've ever played around with time lapse.
Yep. Awesome. All right, we got about 3 more minutes before we'll hop into Discord. Is there anything else that you want to show?
Oh gosh, we went through everything a little faster today, didn't we? Mm-hmm. Is there anything anyone else wants to see? Let's see, I had one other image in my portfolio that I can work on that I brought over, which was the image of a rhino's eye. If you guys
That's a rhino's eye.
Awesome. Yeah, let me go back to... Oh, I'm not in develop mode. So my last trip out to Africa was really special to me. I actually got to photograph and see rhinos for the first time, which was amazing. As you can see, this rhino in the park I was at, they dehorn them so that they don't have the threat of getting killed for their horns, which is really sad that it's come to us needing to do that for their own safety. But I had somebody ask yesterday too, like about my in-camera files. And a lot of times I do photograph in black and white. So this was out of camera. So this is my raw file out of camera that was shot in black and white. And I'm going to start just basically by, working the crop. And I'm going to move, like looking up at the upper left, I think that the areas outside the face are a little bit distracting. I kind of just really, like, to me, what I saw, like when I take a photo, I ask myself 3 questions. What do I see? What do I feel? And what can I eliminate? What do I see? What's the subject? What do I feel like? Am I struck by how strong and powerful the animal is? Is it the softness? Is it the touch? And how can I use the what do I feel into my narrative? And then what can I eliminate? Because everything that you exclude is just as important as what you include in the image. So I asked myself those questions. And for me, when I saw this particular rhino, it was the texture in the skin. It was the texture that it made me think of a tree trunk. Like it had years of story. And so this is why I took this picture, was just, I really was into the texture. So that's what I want. I want people to see this beautiful pattern. I want people to see the eyes, and you know, having the corners, I think, kind of pulled my eye out a little bit. Oh, I'm going to get rid of the info. We don't need all that. I'm going to look at my overlay modes. I'm going to go back to my favorite, which is the spiral. I'm going to rotate it around a little bit. Okay. Now, I think with the lines of the face and the way the eye, I think I might be able to achieve a little bit of a spiral here, which will be nice. I'm going to see if I can get rid of that. No, that area doesn't bother me as much, but yeah. Okay. Now we're going to dodge and burn according to that spiral. I'm going to add some, well, there's contrast. Yeah, I'm going to add some exposure. I'm going to add my blacks, but I don't want to lose the eye. I'm going to up the whites just a touch. I'm going to put a vignette in, and now I'm going to play around a little bit with dodging and burning. I'm going to burn out this eye just a touch.
Zulfan is asking, how often do you use the golden ratio?
I try to use it as much as I can, but I wish I was, I wish I could use it all the time, but it probably applies to like a good, like 10% of my images. I'm like, yes, I got the golden ratio. It's like one of those ideals that you kind of think about wanting to get all the time, but it's not really that accurate. We play a game at the workshops where I like, you know, if people end up achieving the golden ratio, they get bought a drink. So it's like everyone at our international workshops, they strive for the golden ratio. It's really, and then you'll get the one person that goes out and finds a seashell that just has it and then take a photo of it and be like, here, like that doesn't count.
Golden ratio.
That's not fair. But I did my favorite here, my iris enhance, which I think looks good. I'm also going to just pull in a little bit of, I'm going to burn this area a little bit. I'm going to get my brush really, really big here. Okay, exposure. Oh yeah. Yeah, because I really want that eye to sing. Pull out just a tiny bit of the clarity just to bring in just, yeah. And I still want the eye to be just a touch lighter. I don't need that big of a brush for this. And I'm using the bracket key to move the size of the brush. Ooh, overdid it. I just want to brush right here and do my exposure just a little bit. Oh, that's too much. Okay, now I'm starting to really see and feel the textures, which I like. And I'm starting to, you know, even my eye is even moving a little bit along this ratio. If I did a little bit bigger of a vignette, I bet it would move just a little bit better.
Kristi, it is time
Yay!
for
Okay, cool.
Discord. So why don't we jump into that? And if we have time, which we most likely will, we can go back and finish that photo.
You know, it was finished. Okay. It's all good. Let's go to Discord.
Okay.
Okay, let me...
All right, let's fire up Discord. In the meantime, while you pull up Discord, Miguel is asking, hi, Kristi and Paco. Kristi, in Lightroom, do you have a project where you link all the raw files or make a project for each day, week, month, or project trip event?
Unfortunately, I'm like the most disorganized person in the world. My project files and how I catalog things needs massive help. So I've even taken classes on how to catalog things and put things together and link things together. I am way scattered and I should be a lot more focused. So I would love if I did all that, but I don't.
Awesome. All right. Let's go to, so current challenge. Go ahead and scroll all the way to the bottom. Okay. And what we're looking for today is to see if there's any submissions for today's challenge. If not, we can look at the previous day challenges. But for today, it's design an icon using the line tool and shape tool. Try offsetting the lines to add depth. Okay, so we already have one from today. It's from Tan 2019. So let's go ahead and take a look at this and see what's going on. So if you want to click on it, we'll make it bigger.
Okay, great. And could you describe the challenge one more time? I'm sorry, I'm just...
Yeah, so it's design an icon using the line tool and shape tool. Try offsetting your lines to add depth.
Oh, okay. So it's a lot of the line work and the icon. Oh, okay, cool. So the way the lines kind of... Awesome. Oh, this is Duck Valley Farm. We had a Duck Valley Farm yesterday, and
Yeah, I
flower
think
plant.
Val is using it in her challenge, so that's why people are referencing it a lot.
Oh, okay. No worries. Well, I love the outside line work. I love how as an icon, like this is, like it's bold. The shape is well highlighted and out there. I feel like the lettering, even Duck Valley Farm, is hard to read because it's so small. So like the font, I would have loved for it to be a little bit more obvious, but great job with even like these little light spots that bring dimension to it on the left side of the jar.
Yeah, this is awesome. I agree with the font. Um, Other than that, I mean, I think with the shape tool and what you made, wild garlic pesto, I'm pretty sure they put their own spin to this challenge, which is very original and creative. Yeah, I mean, I think it came out great in terms of the shape and the lighting and the tools that you use to kind of bring this all to life. Awesome.
Okay.
All right, let's go up. So this was the texture challenge. This is the one that we were actually looking for yesterday. It's create an object such as a bucket or farm tool, then give it a realistic finish using blend modes and textures.
This is really fun. I love the color, the purple and the blue, and how much the green pops, and the texture of the cacti and the texture of the plant, and even the textured background. It all plays really well off of each other. I would say like some of the edges around the cacti could be maybe softened a little bit. They seem a little bit too obvious.
Right.
Something like feathering them just a touch would probably add, but yeah, great job with contrasting textures.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're like 90% there. The idea is there. The challenge is definitely there. If we just wanted to make it a little more cohesive as the image, is we could probably just feather those edges a little bit so it doesn't look like it's so rough and just kind of composited in there. And then, yeah, maybe even playing with some of the adjustments of the cactus if it's its own layer. You could try and just kind of use some adjustments to kind of go with the rest of the image, or just slap on like an adjustment layer over everything and kind of blend it all together with some adjustment changes. But yeah, this came out great. It was awesome. Okay, let's see what else we got. This is going to the animation one that we're looking at. Oh, look at this.
Oh
It's
my
beautiful.
gosh. I love the little bits of pollen that kind of
Yeah.
shoot out. What a great touch.
Yeah,
But
this is great.
I love the little like the watercolor feel of it, the texture of the greenery and the texture of the plant. Like it's beautiful. What a fun little animation.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely kind of took your own spin on this challenge, I think. With the way the petals are and the stem, and then even adding like the little sprinkles of pollen, I think it gives it that really nice touch to it. And it looks like you kind of have a gradient with the pollen too, right? Like it's not just one color. It kind of goes from like purple to red. It's so great that even Choco came up to join us.
Yeah, Choco's back up. She's
I'm
been
gonna go to
napping.
the Choco cam real quick. There she is.
Let me give her a carrot.
Yeah,
Here, come on in. A little closer. A little closer.
there she is.
Come on.
She's so cute.
She's like, bring it to me, Mom.
That's awesome.
She's the best.
Okay,
Okay.
cool. So a little late with the texture. So that's the texture challenge. It's the same one as yesterday, which was create an object such as a bucket or farm tool and give it a realistic finish using blend modes and textures.
I love that it's like a not expected texture on the bird. Like it's this repeated texture. It makes it really kind of retro and funky. I really enjoy that. I think it's very creative.
Yeah, thirsty crow, nah, nesty crow. Not sure what that means, but I like it. Yeah, no, this is great. The texture that you gave it, I mean, I think that's what these challenges are all about, is take it into your own hands. It doesn't have to be like a feather texture that actually comes with what birds have, right? They added their own texture to it, and it's really kind of made this come to life in almost like a cartoony, like manga sort of way, right? Like it's looking super cool. I like it.
Okay, so we're ready for the next one.
Yeah, let's do it.
I feel like we did this one yesterday, did we? No, we didn't.
I'm not sure. Let's check it out.
Okay, no, we didn't.
Okay. Yeah,
Oh,
so this is looking great. You can see the texture that they added on the clay pot. Might have been some sort of blend mode with a stock image, but again, it gives it kind of that realistic finish, and it's these simple tools that kind of bring this whole composition and image into like a whole different level. So I think this came out great.
I think this is beautiful. I love the colors. I love the orange and how well it plays with the green and the little spot of yellow that comes out. Great job.
Sweet. Let's keep looking. All right, here we go. So that was challenge 4, which is
Textures again.
no, this one was brushes. So illustrate a character or creature using using brushes. So I think the starter file, let's see.
Must have been the bird.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. I like the, even the way that the browns bring out a little bit of texture in the bird. It almost makes it feel like feathers. Because I've noticed that the direction that the maker used, it would mimic the direction of the orientation of the feathers. So they brushed it in a way that it was, and I think that was really clever.
Yeah, I think this came out great. The starter file has the crow, but not painted on. So what they did is just kind of put their own brush strokes on it. And yeah, I mean, I think this came out great. Kind of have this like painting, surreal vibe to it. So I like it.
Super cool.
Alberto saying bird is the word. And then Melissa asks, what are they using for the animation? It's just a Photoshop timeline. So if you want to actually have a look on how that was made, you can check out the Daily Creative Challenge, which was, which one was it? It was animation. So it was challenge number 5. Here, I'll hop onto my screen so I can show you. There we go. So Melissa, if you look at this challenge, it's the animation one. You can get started to get the starter files, and then you can watch the video on how Val actually did that. So super cool, useful tool, and it just kind of brings Photoshop to a whole different level when you start playing with animations in your layers. So cool. So this one must be from today's challenge.
So can you remind me what that is?
Yeah, it's the icon. So design an icon using the line tool and shape. Try offsetting your lines to add depth. And this actually looks a lot like what Val did for today. So I mean, I think it came out great. They've got the textures, the lines, and we do have some sort of depth with that like light glistening on there. So yeah, solid job.
Even the shading in the bottom right helps bring the depth, and how that's contrasted with the light spot. I think that's awesome.
Cool. So this was challenge 8. So that was, I believe, the animation one. So yeah, and there's the bee. Check it out. What does that say at the bottom? Is that Snow Valley Honey?
Something like that.
Yeah. It's
hard to read, but I do love the animation. I do love the bee. We saw a similar one yesterday, which, I love how the bee flies in the same shape as the branches. I would have liked that font to have been a little bit easier to read. And also it would be really nice if the font kind of bent a little bit around the shape of the pot. Yeah.
Cool. Let's have a look at a few more, and then maybe we can hop back into Lightroom for like the last 10 or so minutes. Maybe there's some more stuff we can work with.
Okay.
Okay. This is the challenge animation. Oh, it looks like she went totally different from the starter file, which is awesome.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so we have love with the hearts coming in, and then we have a duck just dancing on that water.
The shot's quite moving.
Nice. I see what you did there.
Oh my gosh, I'm surprised I'm never going to get asked back, right?
Very moving. The dad jokes are still coming in strong, even at the tail end here.
Oh, this is lovely. I think it's fun. It's I love a little bit of randomness. Why not add a little bit of randomness? And this duck coming in is definitely random. And yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's fun. We have the main thing going on here, which is the hearts and the love. And then I think that rubber ducky just kind of ties the last of it together. It's so great.
That's awesome. Okay.
Great. Cool. Let's have a look at a few more.
Songs of the Crow.
This one's cool. Yeah, so the starter file is the crow, but it's not painted in, so it's left up to them on how it's going to look with color and the visual style and everything. So this is great. This is a great take on it. We went with a purple crow with some shading, and I kind of like the text in the background that you decided to add on there. It kind of brings this together.
I even love the difference in texture on the beak and the body on the head of the bird, because I think that the little spotty texture, it shows that there's like a different material there, which I think is really quite cool.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Cool stuff.
Right, oh, how funny. Okay. I have a feeling that I know where the scene is taken from.
Where?
But I just want to say Harry Potter. I feel like this is just like a backstage shot of a Harry Potter scene. I feel like I've seen this before. But what you can see they did there is that potion down there is actually what they worked on for today's challenge. It's actually very clever and original. I like what you did here. They worked on a potion, which is that, and then they just like added on a scene that is also making potions.
One little tip for this, a lot of times you want to make sure the light sources match. So flipping that potion 180, flipping it over the horizon. You see the pots that are up here, you see the little light spot and how it's on the right side. So you might have wanted to kind of mimic that by just rotating that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the idea is there, and I really like what you're doing with the idea. I think if you just kind of add some sort of lighting, like Kristi said, just throw an adjustments layer on there and try and make the lighting blend in there with that, you'll have something that's a little more like believable in its setting. Cool. Thank you again, Voodoo. They throw out a shout out to Voodoo Val, who's been their host for the past 2 weeks. She's actually done tomorrow. She'll be done with the 2-week challenge. So this is very sweet.
This is great. Showing gratitude is amazing. So you've won points in my books by just thanking Voodoo. That's awesome. Great job with the texture in the background, texture of the pot. I love the animation. I love the, it's a happy, fun thank you.
Yeah, I like it. And I think they kind of went their own way with the background on the pot. And I think the pot is using, again, some sort of texture that they used the blend mode with. And I think that specific image works really well with this plot. It looks kind of clay, rough. And then, of course, you have the animation. So great job. It's a really nice submission. I like that one.
Awesome stuff.
Okay. Why don't we look at 2 more, and then we can hop back into Lightroom to finish us out.
Sounds like a great plan. Ooh.
Okay. Apply texture. This is like the sun chicken.
Gosh.
So this one was not from today, but from yesterday. So create an object using bucket or farm tool, then give it a realistic finish using blend modes. Not sure if it's realistic, but I like the idea and the creativity.
I think it's fantastic.
This is like a superhero chicken, or like, some sort of like chicken that resembles the sun.
That's where the golden nuggets come from.
Yeah, there you go. Chickens that lay the golden eggs.
I love it. I think it's really fun. I think it's like, I like when I see something I haven't seen before, and I've definitely not seen this before. And I think that that's a really cool thing to the creator to do something original that's kind of funky, and I think it's got a nice glow to it. I even like the it's like, that chicken's got some power.
Yeah, well, Rob Zilla's actually got the right idea. It's like the Human Torch, instead it's the Torchic. That's what it is. That's what it reminds me of. It's the Human Torch. I think it's from Fantastic Four, just burst up in flames, so it's like Torchic.
Gosh,
that's good. And even a shout out with the use of masking too, because you had to separate that chicken from its background, so they did a pretty solid job actually masking it out to make that background darker. And then even around the I don't know what you call it, but the top of the chicken, it's pretty solid masking work. Yeah, great job with this.
I just feel like more puns should be coming on this one, but I can't think of anything except for like hot wings and I don't know. I'm like,
that's great.
I'm gonna come up with one later and be like, that would have been perfect.
All right, let's check this one out. Challenge number 7. I created in-game badges. Let's see what the text reads real quick.
Different metal textures.
Okay, right on. So let's see the full screen of it.
This is cool. I love how they really played with what a gold would look like versus a silver, and brushed it differently. Like even the bronze, it's like got the sideways brushes. Like I definitely think they nailed this challenge.
This is great. I really like what you did with the gold, how like the metal sort of glints with like those two triangles touching each other. It really gives it that realistic effect because it's like it's some sort of metal that just, yeah, I think the texture on the gold one is really good. I would have liked to see that one on the silver as well. And then maybe even the bronze, but these seem to have their own texture. So it seems like you did kind of give them their own brushing. But yeah, this was great. I mean, this is very original and I like what you did here. All right.
One more?
Let's do one more. Yeah. Cool. It seems like they did their own challenge for this. They didn't use the starter files, which I think is always awesome. And I don't know if they made this backdrop or they took it, but they definitely animated the butterfly. Let's see what the text says. The pot is from scratch. Amazing. Barn is from purchase stock photo collection. Flower and butterfly from purchase clip art. Simple fire filter used on the photo to give it a more graphic look and not so realistic. This came out great, Sig. Bravo.
I love the texture of the grass. Like it's really fun and playful, and yeah, beautiful job.
Yeah, and if the pot is made from scratch and you made that and you added your own textures to it and then composited the flower and the dirt into it, I mean, bravo. I think, yeah, this came out awesome. Cool. All right, well, let's hop into Lightroom. We have 4 minutes left, so maybe we can look at one final photo or maybe finish the rhino one. Or if anybody else has questions about Kristi's work, now's the chance to ask them.
Oh, I would love questions. I'm going to go back to some of the bugs from yesterday.
Yay,
and on a local note, because I never did the crab spider.
The crab spider. Let's check out the crab spider. Yeah.
If that's all right.
I do want to shout out, Saman was asking, do you ever use the auto mask feature on Lightroom?
No.
Okay.
I should though. I keep things like super simple.
Got it. Cool. Cool. Yeah. Why don't we edit this funny little guy for the next 3 minutes and then we can call it a day.
Sounds good. All right. I'm going to edit out a lot of that stuff because to me, the crab spider is named the crab spider because it looks like a crab when it puts its arms out, right?
Does that have a translucent body? I feel like I can see right through it.
You can. I actually like a lot of my macro work. I actually use a light panel. Let's see if I've got it. I think I've got it right here. Yeah. And check this out. It's like a little tiny pocket light panel.
Here, hold on. Let me bring that a little bit bigger.
I do like using flashes when I can, but if I need a static light because I do video, I don't even know if I should turn it on. This thing is bright. But this little pocket light, I can kind of move around and see exactly where I'm hitting the subject.
Awesome. And did you use that for this shot?
I did.
Amazing. Cool.
So I added just a little bit of light. I moved it around and then I was able to, see what I was photographing. So I'm going to go in and add just a little bit of, I ended up, when I started playing with this, let me get the color right, because see if we can go a little bit whiter. Yeah, this guy came out very blue, which I liked. Okay, so we're gonna add a little bit of contrast. I kind of want to get rid of this background, so I might just burn a little bit of that out. So I'm gonna add a brush, make my exposure down, because this area here is just really distracting to me. So do a little bit of burning around the frame. Pull it down just a little bit more. Go up with the blacks. Down with the blacks. Sorry, back to front. But I'm also gonna just kind of brush just a little bit more light. Just gonna dodge this area a little bit by pulling exposure. Actually, no, I don't like that. Okay, just a little bit. So super easy adjustments, right? But I think that's a much stronger image from the beginning.
Yeah, let's see that before and after. Amazing. Beautiful work. All right, Kristi, I'm going to start saying our goodbyes and I'm going to show our schedule so everybody else knows what we have in store. So stick around because we are not done for the day, right? We just had Adobe Live creating photo presets with Kristi Odom and myself. Up next, we have the Illustrator Daily Creative Challenge with the one and only Paul Tranny, he's making this challenge really fun. And then after that, if you want more Illustrator goodness, we'll have the logo design with Claudia and Jesus, then some UI UX design, specifically the XD Daily Creative Challenge with Howard, then the draw along with Kyle Webster. Speaking of dad jokes, if you haven't been watching Kyle shows, he opens his shows with a dad joke every time, and they're just so great. I love them. And then finally, we're going to be finishing off the day with the design off, which was super fun yesterday with Voodoo Val and Cody Bear. So I want to thank everybody for joining us. It's been an amazing stream. We've learned so many great things with Kristi. Kristi, I want to thank you personally for coming to our show and showing us all your secrets and just the amazing photography and your workflows that come with it. So thank you
so much for, thank you guys for listening and being here. And, I'd love to see if you learned something. Just shout me a message and let me know what you enjoyed. And Paco, you've been amazing. I hope to meet you in person one day. And
we're going to have you back on the show, and then hopefully you can actually be in our studio, and then you'll get to meet the rest of the team.
Oh, I would love that. So yeah, thank you guys.
All right. Well, thanks again, everybody. We're going to sign off, but stick around because we have a lot more going on. All right. Bye, everybody.